Cheers, guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's PANCAST Podcast. I'm sipping on a little espresso at the moment. After we go through some of these stories, I might be in the mood for something a little bit harder, I have to say. Let's start today with some vegan stuff. Then we've got a Matfer update, a deal I saw at Costco. I'm going to do an Enso knife unboxing, comments from you guys, and more. So let's jump in and get started. Starting with the vegans. I saw this at my local grocery store the other day. Can someone explain this? If I wasn't a drinker before, I probably would be after trying to figure out this product packaging. So this is a vegan meat lovers pizza. Can someone explain that to me? So if you're a vegan who doesn't eat meat and doesn't like meat, this would be the meat lovers substitute pizza for you. And it's kind of funny, just trying to count the number of contradictions or oxymorons on one product package. Vegan meat lovers pizza. It has plant-based pepperoni, plant-based sausage. Can someone explain that one? Homemade tomato sauce. It's not homemade. It's made in a factory somewhere. It says it has fresh herbs. Can fresh herbs be found frozen? Are they still fresh? And all this had me pondering, but I was fairly tempted by the dairy-free mozzarella style shreds. What gets me is somehow this product was approved by some sort of committee or management somewhere. And apparently they're serious about it. Who knows? It did bring a smile to my face though. Just throwing out an idea here for the vegans. I feel like if this really appeals to you, you're probably stressed out in general, and you might be happier if you just had a slice of pepperoni pizza and got on with your life. Let's see, Costco, not exactly a big box battle this week, but I was on the Costco website, and they're not a sponsor, although if you'd like to be, please do get in touch. But I ran across these teak cutting boards, and I believe this is the exact same model for the cutting board that you guys see in my videos. 15 bucks off, roughly $55, and they're 24 by 18 by 1.5. Don't tell my wife, but I actually ordered 2 of these. They haven't come in yet. And I note that the webpage says these cutting boards are knife friendly. Very important feature in a cutting board. Okay, believe it or not, the doorbell just rang during editing of the video. So let's unbox the teacups. Gotta say, pretty good looking cutting board, and 55 bucks at Costco. Speaking of being knife friendly, let's open a new Enso prep knife I ordered this week and do a couple of first cuts. This is an Enso SG2 5.5 inch prep knife. Let's unbox this guy and do a few first cuts. These Ensos made by Yaxel in Seki City, Japan. Right out of the box, the first thing I notice is that it's a good looking knife with a 101 layer Damascus pattern on the exterior stainless steel. Interior, it has an SG2 steel. Has Japanese writing on one side of the blade, English writing on the other, and some Japanese print on the butt of the knife. The knife seems to be balanced right near this red spacer that separates the micarta handle from the bolster, and it also has a 12-degree blade angle. That should be razor sharp. And it's a prep knife, somewhere between a paring knife and a chef's knife. I bought this because sometimes you need a big 10-inch chef's knife like this. Other times, for more precise tasks, you might want to have a prep knife like this. Speaking of precision cutting, let's try to do some thin slices with these tiny cherry tomatoes. And with that 12-degree blade angle, this thing is slicing right through. Now this was just an unboxing and a few first cuts, but this Enso, good looking knife straight out of the box, razor sharp, and I am really looking forward to using this guy to do some prep work next time I cook. Let's see, another deal I saw. We always talk about keeping our list of products we want to buy handy, and when sales and deals arise, jump on them. I jumped on this myself. I saw that STOB had enamel cast iron frying pans, 10-inch models, for roughly 50% off. Usually about a $200 pan. They had them for 99 bucks, and I jumped on that myself. It hasn't come in yet, but we'll be taking a look at those STOBs in the future. Wal-Mart. It's getting to be, it's an election year, and every time there's an election year, politicians start coming out of the woodwork complaining about Wal-Mart. Is Wal-Mart too big? Is Wal-Mart a monopoly? Should we do something about Wal-Mart? I just want to show from the consumer's point of view here, I think Wal-Mart is fantastic. And why? Because look at this. Manwich, I got a growing boy, 6-year-old son. He eats manwiches 4 or 5 times a week. It gets him to eat his protein and get his red meat. So I make a lot of manwiches. In my local grocery store, a can of manwich sauce, $2. At Walmart, a couple of miles away, $1.34. Is Walmart a monopoly? No, because you can buy the same thing at multiple different places. The local water utility, that's a monopoly. I don't have a choice. I have to buy water from the local water monopoly. They're regulated. They can't just jack up prices. Walmart, everything I can buy at Walmart, I can also buy 5, 10, 15 other places around town if I want to. And they're not sticking me. They are not harming consumers by giving consumers a deal. So I am 66 cents per can better off buying this manwich sauce at Walmart. If Walmart were a monopoly and I had to have manwich sauce, they could charge $5, $10 a can, but they don't do it. They have lower prices. They are better for consumers. Now, if you're one of those people out there that despises Walmart, what you should do is go to Walmart and talk to some people in the checkout line and explain to them how much better they would be paying $30, $40 more for the same stuff someone else. And if you can convince people, then try and convince me. Now, I don't buy everything at Walmart. I buy a lot of consumer packaged goods there, but things like meat, produce, my local grocery store that has the $2 manwich sauce, they actually have a very good meat counter. They got a very good cheesemonger. They got good fish. So there are reasons to go to the local grocery store, and there are also reasons to go to Walmart. Let's see, a quick update from Debouille. They've been sold out of lots of the carbon steels, the Mineral Bs and Mineral B Pros. They've got some of them back in stock. I'll put a link below if you want to check it out. It's an affiliate link, of course. But some of them are back in stock, and just with the supply chain, the way it is these days, if you see something and it's a decent price, I would go ahead and jump on it. Who knows? Ships hitting bridges, wars around the world. I don't know. When I see something I need, if it's a good price, go ahead and grab it. Do you guys need to throw out your spices? Probably. I bet some of you do. My wife and I went through our spice drawer, and we got going and went through the pantry, and then I went through the food storage room, and it was somewhat of a disaster yesterday. We threw out probably $500 worth of stuff, made me feel like a little bit of a wasteful American. But then on the other hand, I was also thinking that some of this stuff, some of the food I threw out, I bought during COVID, during the supply shocks from COVID. And it got me to thinking that was 4 years ago that COVID broke out. Seems like it was last year, maybe the year before. We had supply shocks, Americans waiting in lines for stuff. So I had stocked up on a lot of things just to have some stuff to get us through. And it had gone rancid. So I got rid of it. A couple of things, just kind of funny here. I found this Montreal steak seasoning. Bought this, I think, in 2011. And this moved with me from Montana through 2 apartments in Utah and to this house. I've had it longer than I've had my wife. This can of Wal-Mart sliced pickled beets that went out of date 5 years ago in a post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear war scenario where we have to barter. This could be worth its weight in gold. When it comes to cooking though, I probably threw out 75 little spice jars. We buy occasionally some exotic spice for a recipe and we use it for 1 or 2 recipes and then it just goes into the pantry and it just sits there. That stuff goes bad. And if you're into cooking and you want your recipes to taste delicious, maybe you should go through your spice drawer and get rid of anything that's over a year old. I know it's a little bit expensive, it may seem a little bit wasteful, but I think your recipes will benefit. Okay, let's get into the Matfer controversy of the last week or two. And I got some follow-up on that and some feedback from you guys. If you haven't been following along, Matfer, maker of a lot of carbon steel cookware, had some of their pans, not all, but some of their pans recalled in France for potentially or for leaching excess amounts of iron, chromium, and arsenic. And what apparently happened, France has different states within France. The state in which Matfer's factory was located did some testing on one of their pans and issued the recall. That flowed up to France, flowed up to the European Union, and they were recalled all in the European Union, but they were not recalled in North America. People in America were wondering, well, if they're unsafe over there, are they safe here? Matfer, from day one, has said that they think the recall order was issued in error. They're fighting it. They say their pans are safe and that they have the safety of their customers in mind. And they finally gave us some information. And it turns out that the test, apparently, and I'm taking Matfer's word for it here, is that the regulator boiled an acid in an unseasoned carbon steel skillet for 2 hours. And that produced some leaching of the metals. That does not surprise me. It's just basic high school chemistry. You put an acid on bare iron, there's going to be a chemical reaction. So first thing here, I think just to reiterate some good practices for our carbon steel. Let's make sure our seasonings are touched up. Make sure you got a good seasoning on your pan. And B, don't cook acidic foods in carbon steel. Matfer said that the test they did was akin to boiling a tomato sauce for over 2 hours. We know we're not supposed to cook tomatoes in carbon steel. As a matter of fact, I showed in one video using a can of tomatoes to remove seasoning from a carbon steel skillet so that you could kind of start over. The tomatoes are acidic, they will eat off the seasoning, and if you keep cooking them for a long time in a carbon steel pan, it will eat away at the metal. So don't cook tomatoes. Vinegar, lemon juice, lime juice, sometimes wine can be acidic. Any acidic foods don't cook in your carbon steel. Use a stainless steel pan for anything like that, especially if you're going to make a tomato sauce. Use a stainless steel cooking surface for that. Let's see, Mike Johnson, 4617 asks, do all the other manufacturers' pans pass this test? Here is where I think Matfer has a good point. They maintain that their pans passed all the French regulations and the EU food regulations, and the test that they didn't pass was a local provincial test. And that was because that local province, that just happened to be where Matfer's factory was located, and they did the test. I think Matfer has a point here. To be fair, if they're going to do this to Matfer, they should apply the same test fairly to everyone. Test everyone's pans with the same test and post all the results, and then we can make our decisions. But if they're singling out one company for a more stringent test that the other manufacturers are not subject to, that doesn't seem fair to me. Let's see, JLSEGB, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, wants Matfer to do some third-party testing and release the test results. I think that would be a nice thing to do. I would like to at least know the levels and the numbers. And let's say that the pans fail a test boiling that acid for 2 hours. I'd like to know, What happens if you fry an egg for 90 seconds? Is everything okay? If I sear a steak, 2-3 minutes aside, and finish it a couple minutes in the oven, say 10 minutes of searing meat in a pan, is that okay? That might be nice to know. I suspect, and I would expect, that that's fine, but who knows? There's no way that having a product recalled is good for a company. They've definitely taken a hit, whether it's a fair hit or not. Still kind of remains to be seen. I think it's a little bit unfair, but as far as third-party testing, if they do the testing and release the results, I think that would do a lot to help regain credibility. But again, to be fair, they should do the same third-party testing, whoever the regulators are, on all the brands and manufacturers of cookware. Let's see, and then at the other end of the spectrum, Dennis Blevins 5723 says he thinks it was much ado about nothing, and he said that a government, and says that it turns out it was just a government agency testing a product in a way that normal users would never do. Matfer gets kudos for addressing the problem and promptly informing us. So there is a wide variety of opinions on the Matfer recall. Let's see, Christopher Sturworth wrote in about these tile countertops and asks if it is difficult to keep them clean. Tile countertops, I would not wish these on my worst enemy. I despise them. They are difficult to keep clean. These grout lines, they feel kind of gritty down in there. And the reason I have them is that the previous owner of this house put them in for whatever reason, I do not know. But when my wife and I bought this house, we renovated the upstairs kitchen. That kind of drained the old bank accounts. And there was just no budget left over to renovate the man cave kitchen. So once I get my kids' college education fully funded, maybe someday if I win the lottery, we'll upgrade the old tile. Talking more about cooking acid and carbon steel, both George Pagakis 9854 and Sony Cron write in about paella. Why can we use tomatoes when cooking paella in a carbon steel paella pan when we can't do that in a carbon steel skillet? Here I do not have a perfect answer, but I have a few thoughts on it. And I've even read on some of the paella forums that some people like cooking paella with the acid in their paella pans because they think it affects the flavor and improves the flavor of the paella. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. In a carbon steel skillet, when I used tomatoes to kind of remove seasoning, that was a can of pure tomatoes right on the carbon steel. And that was a big blast of acid, and it ate that seasoning off in, what was it, 10, 15 minutes or so. When you cook paella, it's a much wider pan, and generally speaking, I've been browning chicken and sausage, and I've got olive oil in there, and that's been cooking for 15, 20 minutes or so. So there's a lot of fat already in the pan, and maybe that protects the carbon steel just a little bit. And also the amounts. When I make the paella, it may be 1 or 2 cups of tomatoes in a much wider pan, and then the liquid goes in right thereafter, and they get very diluted down. So maybe the pure tomatoes on the carbon steel skillet are very acidic. When a relatively small amount of tomatoes goes into a solution with fat and other ingredients and a lot more liquid, it gets diluted down and perhaps is not quite as acidic when you make paella. Let's talk a little bit more about meat. We don't talk too much about politics around here unless it has something to do with food, drink, gas stove bans, things like that. This past week in Florida, Ron DeSantis, they passed a law down there banning lab-grown meat, and it kind of supports the local beef industry down there. And I'm kind of in favor of this from a food freedom, eat whatever you want perspective. If someone wants to eat lab-grown meat, I don't have a problem with that. Eat whatever you want. The problem is kind of the slippery slope. I think the cow fart people, if they can get lab-grown meat, they would say, well, if we can grow it in a lab, you no longer need a ranching or beef cattle industry, and they might try and shut that down and might try to prevent the rest of us from eating natural meat. So from that point of view, I do like the law. From a food freedom point of view, maybe there should be a little bit of wiggle room to let people eat whatever they want, as long as they don't pester everyone else. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's PANCAST.